Okay, so what we want to do is give you guys an opportunity to delve into the insights of my panelist colleagues. So I want to open to the floor. If you guys could raise your questions, I'm going to ask if somebody could float a mic around. Would somebody mind? Thank you, Butsy. So questions, please. First hands closest to the mic, get the questions.
Okay, in your presentation, you spoke about having a quality board.
Yeah.
And at what stage? Because quality people are not easily available, especially where resources are quite scarce.
Yep.
And they don't come cheap. And at what stage do you recommend that step be taken?
I'm going to let Brad field that one.
Cool. I think so. Just some insights from our journey. We actually set up an advisory board 18 months before we raised our first $4 million round. And the whole point of that advisory board was just people to help us understand how a board worked, what was going to be expected of us, the discipline of producing monthly financials, the discipline of setting and hitting targets. And I think that's just such crucial things to do. And I think, I don't know all the mandates of this organization, but there are so many organizations where people will give serious entrepreneurs that time because there's such a drive to be investor ready. People will not just give you money without, I really like the idea of generating revenue. To me, every business has to be about customers and generating revenue. Ideas are worthless. It's sad but true. If people invest in a team that's got a proven track record of executing well.
Yeah, and maybe just to add flesh onto that, so that's exactly what we'd recommend. Startup, no board, advisory board, maybe one investor. Once you start scaling up, you need a board, and it needs to be small and it needs to be power. And probably you're moving from 4 or 5 person board in the early scale-up stage to maybe 6 or 7 once you're really getting to be a small, big company. Dom, anything to add to that question? No? Cool. Next. Yes, sir.
Okay. My question is on both Brad and assigned to Dominic. Okay. I'm still a startup. What I did was to raise funding through friends and family. So, yes, it has the good and the bad. But the good thing is, in terms of the interest rate or the return that you need to pay, they are very lenient than if you had to go to angel investors or if you had to go to banks. So, Brett, my question is, as a startup, I know that I've been in a position where I've had people to say, okay, fine, you can join me, but majority of people that I've approached, especially from diversity skills, they want piece of a pie. Just okay, fine, give me 20%. So when is it exactly the perfect time where you can involve other people, and especially where you need to give away some equity from your business?
So I think the most important thing for any entrepreneur is first your time, and you see value in your shares. So on one hand, we treated our shares like gold, but on the other hand, we also were very willing to partake them. So I'll share the story we had with our CEO. He was a Canadian guy. He finished his Oxford MBA. And then he had his own dream to come to Africa and link American capital with African entrepreneurs. And that was his vision. And he arrived at our office and he basically got clientitis. He just wouldn't leave. But what he actually then did do is we agreed a market wage. And for 24 months, he took 80% of that market wage and put it into the business to get shares. So to me, it's finding people that are absolutely aligned with your values and beliefs. And one thing I refuse is any paper tiger partners at any stage in any business. People who tell you they'll open doors, people that they've got their own businesses, they've got their own life. You need to find, especially in the early days, you need to find people totally aligned with your values, and they need to sweat with you or they're just not worth having around, is my advice.
I think where I want to strengthen that is anything that you do within your business has to be on an arm's length basis. So if, for example, someone says to you they're going to bring in a partner, therefore I should get equity for that, rather structure an arm's length service agreement on that. To say, if you provide that service, I'd rather pay you a commercial rate. Because that's where you get a lot of issues. So if you're going to involve people, try to structure a commercial agreement. Only give people shares if they are 100% committed to the business and you want to keep them in the business for a long time because they're employees. And then the other thing is only give equity if you're raising capital. I mean, that's the other thing. But, when it comes to the capital conversation, is that I do say to people, that's where you've got to have the conversation of saying, do I want a big part of a little pie? Or do I want a little part of a big pie? I mean, people would be surprised to find out how little Willem Rose and Adrian Gore actually own of Outsurance and Discovery, and yet how wealthy those men are and how much influence they have. So those are the things you have to think through in your head.
Cool, who's next? Got a couple of questions. Maybe we'll get another mic to the back there. Okay. Gentleman over there.
Brad. Okay, for both. Would you please wear your entrepreneurial hat for the question? Okay, sweet. Can you just elaborate on your early days, you and your brother, like how you started the idea and the steps you actually took until you started generating money? And the same applies to Don. So most entrepreneurs here are startups, so I guess it's relevant for all of us.
Cool. I think so. I think one of the best bits of advice I ever read or heard was, how do you get to make good decisions? Well, with experience. And how do you get experience? Well, you make lots of bad decisions. So this was not our first rodeo. We have sold comics. We have sold airtime. We have built a vending 12-tiered money packet thing in Bangladesh. And so we just tried everything. We backed ourselves. We just kept going. In terms of cash, we always just believed in cash. Like I once went for a haircut, and there was a great thing, and I'm sure it's anywhere, but it's what's it? Revenues, vanity, profit, sanity, cash flows, reality. And I think for any person starting a business, just own your cash flow. So we always were just very vigilant on cash. And then the only thing I could say we did well is we surrounded ourselves with amazing people. And I think that's the only way you can scale and grow a business, even at a very early day.
So our experience was we were a group of bankers who were trying to do something in the branchless banking space and trying to do the banking, the unbanked thing within a large bank, and we couldn't do what we needed to do because of the confines. We had legacy IT systems, we had compliance, we had legacy brand issues, etc. And we said, what if we were crazy enough to start from scratch and design Bank 2.0? And a few of our core team members were crazy enough to do it with us. And we left and we started our own business on that basis. But what was quite important in that space, so for anyone who is in the fintech space, is we were a team of, the starting team had over 180 years of banking experience. So I always say, before you're going to destroy something, know what you're destroying. So when you put it back together, you know exactly where the weaknesses are. And you've got to be bold. What we did was pretty aggressive in the banking space, but we believed in something quite strongly. And because of that conviction, we were able to land some phenomenal contracts, and we were able to generate revenue very quickly because we had experience. Also, talking about the rodeo, we were a team that had done this 3 different times within that organization. So we actually had proved a track record within that organization. So we weren't entering into this naively.
Please do.
I think one other thing I'd encourage any entrepreneurs. So we have a slogan in our business is when you have bacon and eggs, the pig is committed and the chicken's involved. So one of them's slaughtered and one of them's just laid an egg. And if you're serious about being an entrepreneur, you have to be serious. Like, you can't do it tomorrow. You can't do your part-time job. And I'm not saying you're going to succeed, but you absolutely have to be brave enough to jump in and just give it everything. And I liked it. I forget which one of you said it, but it was so, I think it was so important. Like, there are easier ways to make money. So this has got to be about purpose. It really is a labor of love.
Sorry, if there's one thing I can add to that, you also said if there's one thing I could do to wave a magic wand, I'd really love people to stop doing lifestyle businesses and to start doing things on the side and thinking that they're going to, once this thing gets going, I will leave my corporate job, or once I get traction there. That's the first one. I also really want to stop hearing people say, I really want to be an entrepreneur so I can be my own boss and have flexibility. Trust me, being your own boss is the worst thing you can ever imagine because you are never away from work. And I think that's the other thing. I think people don't appreciate how hard it is to have to live with yourself 24 hours a day and be working 24 hours a day.
Just one point of Dom's that I just want to magnify. In our experience as funders, the entrepreneurs who's starting something in an industry or market, that they've been working in for years, they know how to get to revenue faster. Cool. Next question.
Question for Brad. You've done exceptionally well in raising capital offshore. I think there are a lot of headwinds for an international investor, political risk, currency risk. What's been the biggest contributor for your success? Has it been structural things like registering your company offshore, or softer skills like investor relations?
I think on the capital raise, our partner and CEO, a guy called Mike Quinn, has done an exceptional job. So, I certainly can't take any of the credit for that. That was totally him. And also our CFO, a guy called Keith Davies. But I think in terms of raising capital offshore, to us, it was the only option. With all, again, I don't want to comment about here, but we refuse to be valued on anything but a revenue multiple. We refuse to talk about EBITDA because our business was not about making profits as well, about pumping everything back into the business as fast as we could, just to grow it as fast as we could. I think, to be honest, our partner Mike had a lot of good personal networks. So our first angel investor was the former CFO of Google. So that comes with some status. But I think raising money through any investment is just build a great team, get traction, and just keep hitting your numbers. I'll give you a great example. So we're going into our Series B raise now, 4 years after our Series A. And the business plan we presented to our Series A investors, we have beaten. And very few businesses do that. And there's been a lot of luck along the way, but I really like that idea of focus. You've just got to focus. But I mean, just make commitments, meet them, keep a clean cap table, but just surround yourself with amazing people who are committed to generating customer value and revenue.
Great. Thanks, Brad. Who's next?
Can I just ask?
Yeah, please.
There's one thing that all three mention. This is the brainstorming issue, or scrumming as the new jargon. How effective is it amongst your team?
Look, I mean, there is a lot of jargon, and I think there's always been a lot of jargon, if I'm honest. I think about buzzwords now like Fintech. It's actually there's been a hell of a lot of tech in Fin for a long time. And look, there's a lot of value to the lean startup methodology, to using Scrum methodology and how you run your projects, etc. To be honest with you, I see a lot of businesses who throw the jargon around and pretend that they're using it, but they don't know why they're using it. So it really comes down to, do you understand what minimum viable product actually is? Do you understand what lean startup actually means? That all it is it's a way to get out to your customer faster and to get customer validation quicker. And are you getting those customer feedbacks back into your business really quickly and iterating on that? So I'm less concerned about how you've structured yourself and how you're running all these cool teams and whether you've got lots of stickies on your board and, why are you doing it? I don't know.
Yeah, I think from our side, two things. It all starts with the customer. So we've gone down this customer centricity journey where we literally focus our culture, our values, our organization structure, our people, our process. It's all about you only build what your customer's prepared to pay for, and those are the products, processes, and people structures you deliver. An interesting thing for me, and don't quote me in case I'm totally wrong, is I think the organogram or org chart was invented by a Scottish guy in the 18th century who made buttons. So if any of you are planning on making buttons, the organization chart's probably a great direction to go. But the way we do it, and it's not, maybe it's from Scrum or whatever, but every 90 days, the business chooses 3 things and 3 things only we do. And then we literally choose the best people to positively impact those 3 things. So in any given quarter, you might have a different leader, you might be in a different team, but it's just about every 90 days, what are the 3, and it has to be 3. As soon as it's 4, take it back to 3, because you can only do, if you do 10 things, or you try and do 10, you do none, 5, you do 1 badly, 3 you can achieve, and we're razor focused on that. And it's such a change management approach, but we are brutal on the power of no. And if people are doing things outside of that, then we're nice people, but we're not always that relaxed around things like that.
Cool, thanks. Any final questions, guys, before we give away a prize? No. Okay.